weeks later, ISMP will also be in Netherlands. So we're very lucky next year.
Let's say so.
Yeah. But also busy organizing. Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt this nice conversation between
chatting.
Nice to see all of you here. So I think we can start. We are exactly in time. I'm Marco Andreatta. I am the president of Unione Matematica Italiana, and so I'm opening this beautiful seminar organized by the Italian Mathematical Society, Unione Matematica Italiana. Actually, it is organized by the Observatory of Research of UMI, in particular by Elisa Francomano, Valeria Simoncini, and Maria Vallarino, which I like to thank very much for this very nice idea. The title of the seminar is Fraudolent Publishing Practices in Mathematics, Analysis of the Phenomenon and Recommendation for the Community. Wow, this is a very, very nice and general problem. And on evaluation, how to evaluate and which criteria to adopt for this type of problems. Let me say just at the beginning that this is actually not only mathematics, it is very important in many contexts, this question of evaluating things, including politics, for instance, or arts. And in these fields, politics, for instance, fraudulency is even more evident, and we cannot contrast it, apparently. And democracy is also involved in these things. So it's really a very, very important problem. And I think that this approach, very serious and rigorous of mathematics, could be useful also in other contexts. So thank you very much for adding this very important problem. And we have 3 speakers, and we do not have much time, so I apologize. I thank them very much for coming here and giving their opinion. And we do not have much time, so we ask them to have to speak for 20 minutes, something like that. And I will introduce them once by once. And then the conclusion will be ruled by Elisa Francomano and Valeria and Maria. So let's proceed, and let me introduce the first speaker. I'm very honored to introduce Will Schilders, and he's a PhD in numerical analysis at the Trinity College in Dublin, long ago. He worked in private companies, Philips and Semiconductors and HP. And he was also professor at University of Technology in Eindhoven. He is president nowadays of the International Council for Industrial and Applied Mathematics. So he has a very prominent role also in directing world mathematics. He recently co-authored 2 papers with the title and the one of the seminar. And so it is on fraudulent publishing practices, and it contains recommendation which grows from the International Council for Industrial and Applied Mathematics together with the International Mathematical Union. So it is really a very important, 2 very important papers. And so I thank him very much, and I let him give his short talk. Thank you, Will.
Okay, thank you very much, Marco, for this. And I will share my screen. I hope you can see it. Is it okay? You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear and we can see you. Wow, very nice picture.
Great. Yeah, that's our university in Eindhoven that you see. So these are the official slides that we have to use when we do presentations.
Okay.
So, thank you very much, Marco, for the introduction. I would also like to thank Elisa, Valeria, and Maria for organizing this. I think it's a great initiative, and this is really nice. So I hope we will learn something this afternoon. As Marco also said, this is based on 2 joint IMU-ICIAM publications. IMU doesn't stand for Italian Mathematical Union, as you know, it's UMI. Yeah, but IMU is the International Mathematical Union. Yeah, they are organizing their congress, their big congress in Philadelphia in a few months in the US. So these 2 IMU-ICIAM publications were made last year. One is discussing the whole context, and I will do that also in this presentation. And we also wrote a second paper, how to fight this fraudulent publishing and give some recommendations, especially to young people. Okay, so why this topic now? Yeah, so you could say that first, there is a growing concern about research integrity. We see more interactions and more discussions about questionable practices, not only in other sciences, but increasingly also in mathematics. And secondly, there is a strong and growing reliance on bibliometric indicators. And these metrics are often used as proxies for quality, even though they were never designed for that purpose. Thirdly, scientific publishing has expanded enormously. I will show that also later. The number of journals and papers has increased a lot, partly due to new business models, such as open access with article processing charges. And finally, we see the emergence of new forms of manipulation, more systematic, more organized, sometimes even automated, for example, through citation networks or AI-generated content. And this is not about isolated cases, this presentation. It's about systemic developments that we see. And why should we care? Well, first of all, it undermines trust in science. If the literature becomes unreliable, the whole system is affected. It also distracts evaluation and funding decisions, which may no longer reflect real quality. Thirdly, it shifts incentives towards quantity rather than quality. And fourth, early career researchers are particularly vulnerable to these pressures. So it becomes increasingly difficult to distinguish genuinely good science from poor or manipulated work. So let's have a look at the academic publishing ecosystem. Yeah, so the researchers, they are that's the central point in the system. Yeah, they produce the research, they write papers, and they also act as referees and as in the editorial process. But then there are journals, of course. Researchers submit their work to journals, and where it is reviewed and published. And at the same time, many researchers are themselves involved in this process. Then we have the publishers. Journals are typically managed by publishers. Then these can be learned societies, but increasingly also large commercial partners. And researchers are employed by universities or research institutes, which in turn are evaluated by governments and funding agencies. So the institutions, they evaluate researchers based on their publications, and researchers write grant applications to secure funding. So what we have is a closed loop: researchers producing publications, publications being evaluated, evaluation affecting careers and funding, and in turn influences how research is published. So far, this is a fairly classical picture, and the real change comes when we add metrics, money, and data, which is what we see on this slide, on the next slide. Yeah. Now the picture becomes much more complex and also more interesting. So there are new players. In addition to the traditional actors, we now have 2 important new elements: bibliometric databases, and also indexing companies. And these organizations, they they collect publication and citation data and turn them into metrics, such as impact factors, citation counts, and also rankings. And originally, these databases were created to help researchers find relevant literature, but today they play a second role. They are used to evaluate research performance. And at the same time, we see financial flows through the system. Universities and funding agencies pay publishers, either through subscriptions or through article processing charges, the so-called APCs. And this introduces a direct economic incentive. Publishing more papers generates more revenue. Yeah, so now, if you follow the arrows, you are seeing several feedback loops emerging: publications to metrics, metrics evaluation, evaluation, funding and careers, and also funding to more publications. And that creates a system in which metrics influence behavior. So let's look at the core problem that we identified in our papers, so incentives. Of course, evaluation research is necessary. Yeah, we all know that we need to make decisions about funding, hiring, promotion. But moreover, there is an increasing reliance on quantitative indicators, such as citation counts and impact factors, because they are easy to compute and appear objective. Yeah, they appear objective. But the problem is that these indicators are only proxies for quality. When they are used too heavily, they start to replace more nuanced, expert-based judgment. And once that happens, these metrics begin to influence behavior, which is precisely what Goodhart's law describes. Yeah? And when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. What are key mechanisms of manipulation? First of all, we have the citation cartels. There's a group of researchers that systematically cite each other to artificially inflate citation counts. Paper mills, commercial organizations producing and selling science papers, often with fabricated or low quality content. And you see that here on this slide that I borrowed from another presentation by Ilka Agricola, one of the authors of our papers. Yeah, so you see that the Russian side says it has brokered authorships for more than 10,000 researchers. There are two sites that claim to sell authorships on scientific papers, and things like that are happening at this time. And there are more things happening. Then we have the so-called predatory journals that charge publication fees without proper peer review and often with a fast review or misrepresenting quality. We even have predatory conferences, events with little or no scientific review, and primarily organized to generate revenue and publications. And there are also nowadays mega journals, very large journals publishing thousands of papers annually and often with minimal selectivity. And these are not isolated phenomena, but they are systematic responses to the incentive structures that we observed in the previous slides. So why is mathematics so vulnerable? Well, first of all, it has low publication and citation rates compared to many other disciplines. Yes, mathematicians typically publish fewer papers or receive fewer citations, and that makes the statistical indicators less robust. Then a large variation across subfields. So different fields of mathematics have different publication and citation cultures. We will see that in a minute also. Small changes can lead to large metric effects. So because the absolute numbers are small, modest increases in citations significantly affect the rankings. And there's also a weak signal-to-noise ratio. The limited amount of data makes it difficult to distinguish genuine scientific quality, random fluctuations, or artificial inflation. So bibliometric indicators are particularly fragile and easily distorted in mathematics. So that's a vulnerability of our field. And so what is the Clarivate case about? The Clarivate case I mean, in November 2023, Clarivate, a big organization with billions of turnover, excluded roughly 1,000 researchers in their list of highly cited researchers. And the reason was integrity concerns. And this happens more often, as you can see. About 300 were excluded in 2021, then 500 in 2022, and now already 2,000 in 2024. So they really look at this and exclude highly cited researchers if there are integrity concerns, according to Clarivate. And in addition, the entire field of mathematics, which was about 90 highly cited researchers, was removed from the list because the level of distortion was considered too high. And this is their reasoning. Yeah, so they say that mathematics is a highly fractionated research domain with few individuals working on a number of specialty topics. And the average rate of publication and citation in mathematics is relatively low. So small increases in publication and citation tend to distort the representation and analysis of the overall field. And because of this, the field of mathematics is more vulnerable to strategies to optimize status and reward through publication and citation manipulation. So this is the explanation that Clarivate gave to exclude the whole field of mathematics from their list. But end of 2025, so 2 years later, mathematicians are back in the list. And now some 65 mathematicians are listed. It's mainly in applied areas, if you look up the list. And often these highly cited researchers have many co-authors and strong overlap with engineering. Pure mathematicians, especially in algebra, geometry, and number theory, are largely absent from this list. And so the highly cited researchers do not really represent the full mathematical spectrum. For example, Terence Tao, everybody knows him. Despite he's one of the most influential mathematicians, he does not consistently appear on the list of highly cited researchers. And of course, the issue is not only fraud and manipulation, it's also the underlying comparison is fundamentally uneven across the fields in mathematics. So what do we observe? Well, first of all, we see a weak correlation between citations and quality. So highly cited papers or authors are not necessarily those with the most significant or influential mathematical. You can look at the names and then make your conclusions sometimes. Yeah, so there's also a discrepancy with major prizes and peer recognition. Prestigious awards and expert evaluations often highlight different research areas than those ranked highly by citation-based metrics. There's a strong self-citation pattern in some cases, and also there's concentration in certain research areas. Yeah, so others are underrepresented, but some are really highly represented. So let's make some observations then. And that's also what we did in the paper. So one of the first questions is, where are the highly cited mathematicians located and what does this tell us? Well, there's a table in our paper, you see it here, of institutions that have more than one primarily affiliated highly cited researcher in mathematics working for them, from a total of 89 in 2019. Yeah, so the institution with the highest number of highly cited researchers is a specialized medical university, and it doesn't have a mathematics department. So this is strange. Of course, mathematicians can do good work in a medical university, but they don't have a mathematics department. And that may suggest that citation-based indicators may reflect structural features of the publication system rather than the actual organization of mathematical research. Yeah, so we think that we should be stricter about secondary affiliations, and that's mostly the case for the people mentioned, for the highly cited researchers that we see in this table. The ones that it's not their primary affiliation. Second signal is retractions. That's also a growing signal. Retractions in mathematics remain relatively rare, but are increasing in recent years. We see about 1,000, there is also a database for this, you can look it up. It's about 1,000 retracted papers in mathematics, where mathematics is the primary field of the researcher, and about 3,000 retracted papers with mathematics as a secondary topic. And I browsed through the database, and when I type Springer, then I find some 150 listings. When I see Elsevier, it's also about 150 retracted papers from their journals. But for SciAm, for example, it's 0. And well, I have experience with SciAm myself, and it's really their editorial boards are very, very strict, and the reviewers are very good. So this is also reflected here. No retractions in the SciAm database. 7 out of the 89 highly cited researchers in the 2019 list also appear in the retraction database. But the retractions are strong. The growth is strong across all scientists. You see here the graph. It was 0.02% in 2002, and 20 years later it is tenfold. Yeah, so that's a growing number. And yes, I mean, we have to also conclude that retractions are often linked to paper mills, plagiarism, or duplication. Yeah, so of course, retractions can result from errors, honest errors, but their concentration in certain contexts points to structural vulnerabilities in the publication system. Okay, citation behavior differs across groups. Yeah, I mentioned that already a little bit. But here you see another observation that we made. And here we introduced two numbers. One is SCS, it's the number of percentage of citations to own work. And SRS is the percentage of references to own work. And you see that highly cited researchers score much higher on these two criteria than, for example, the top 1,000 cited mathematicians or prize winners. Yeah, so this is also an indication. Highly cited researchers exhibit significantly higher levels of self-citation and self-referencing compared to other groups. And these differences reflect distinct citation behaviors across communities. So bibliometric indicators are sensitive to how researchers are citing, and not only to what they contribute. A final observation, or one of the final ones, highly cited researchers and university rankings. Well, of course, highly cited researchers are also very important for university rankings. Yeah, and university rankings rely heavily on bibliometric indicators. So citations, highly cited researchers, index publications, and highly cited researchers are a key component of this. So they influence institutional reputation, ranking position of the universities. And in some documented cases, citation manipulation at the individual level has translated into very measurable effects on university rankings. We know a few very pronounced cases. Yeah, so rankings really affect funding decisions, student choices, and institutional strategy. So it is very important for universities. But as you can see, there's also some vulnerability here. Yeah, so rankings amplify the incentives to optimize bibliometric indicators. And now I would like to show you a recent experiment of Nihar Shah. He actually replied to our papers. He's at Carnegie Mellon University in the computer science department. What he says is that for the journals that he's looking at, they observe a 20-fold increase in submission rates from 1,000 in 2015 to 25,000 now. And they did an experiment at the top conference of them. They took 3 papers, or they wrote 3 papers, but with one deliberate fatal flaw in each of these 3 papers. And then these papers were, of course, handled by reviewers. And here you see the result of the review process. There were about 80 reviewers that looked at the papers, and 54 of them had no comment on the erroneous technical part. Some said that the erroneous part was sound, and some said that the erroneous part was straightforward. There was only one reviewer that questioned the erroneous part. So this is quite an observation. And what Shah said in his email to us is perhaps mathematics should also consider running such controlled experiments to understand how well the review process is doing. Yeah, so that's quite a stunning example. A few more vulnerabilities. Well, the reliability of bibliometrics depends strongly on the underlying database. So there are curated mathematical databases such as ZP Math Open and MathSciNet. They play a different role from commercial citation databases. But often the applied papers are not in those databases. The problem ranges from poor publication practices to systematic manipulation and in some cases really fraud. And what we also observe right now is that AI is likely to amplify the existing problems by lowering the cost of producing plausible looking but unreliable papers. Yeah, so that's also a fear that we have. Okay, let me come to the conclusion of this talk and some actionable perspective. So what have we learned? Well, we learned that bibliometric indicators are not neutral. Once used for evaluation, they influence how researchers publish and cite. Different fields and communities exhibit different citation patterns, so publication and citation behavior varies widely across the subfields of mathematics, applied mathematics, pure mathematics. And mathematics can produce results that are difficult to reconcile with the structure of mathematics. Yeah, so observations such as the institutional distribution of highly cited researchers, it does not really reflect the traditional organization of the discipline. Incentives are also created by rankings, reinforcing these effects. So when rankings depend on metrics, there is strong pressure to optimize them. Yeah, so that is what we see happening as well. And so the observed distortions are systemic, not incidental, and they will probably persist if we don't intervene. So what can we do? Well, there's a few categories of people that should be working on this. First of all, the policymakers. They should maybe reduce the reliance on bibliometric indicators. Quantitative metrics should not replace expert judgment in evaluation, of course. And they should also use expert-based evaluation. So peer review remains really essential if you want to assess quality in mathematics. Institutions, they should focus merely on quality, not on quantity. And they should also avoid rigid metric-based criteria. So overly strict numerical targets can really distort the research behavior. So they should avoid that. And if you look at individuals, and we wrote a whole paper on this, the second paper is with many recommendations. Cite responsibly, so citations should reflect relevance, not strategic considerations. And you should be aware of publication practices. Researchers should recognize how incentives influence behavior. So improving evaluation systems requires actions at all levels, policymakers, institutions, and individuals. So the final message from my side, evaluation is necessary. So we need evaluation, of course. Decisions on funding, hiring, and promotion require some form of assessment. But metrics are only proxies. Quantitative indicators cannot fully capture scientific quality. We should all realize that. And if we have over-reliance on these metrics, then that creates distortions. When metrics dominate, they influence behavior in unintended ways. So, and that's what we said before, when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. So the challenge is not to abandon evaluation, but to ensure that it really reflects what we truly value in mathematics. And that's what I wanted to tell you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Will. Very nice, short presentation. Very nice, very nice. Thank you very much for the presentation and for the two papers, to you and to your collaborators. They are very important, and they help us very much. So I propose to go on with the schedule as in the as the organizer decided. So we will have a second and a third talk without an interruption. We will probably end around 4, and then we have 20 minutes, 25 minutes of discussions, and then Elisa will make the final remarks. And I propose to people who would like to have a questions to formulate the question at 4 p.m. Maybe if you are interested, you can put a question on the chat before 4. So we will, together with Elisa, we can collect the questions to have a certain order. So thank you very much, Bill. And we go to the second speaker of today. I'm very, very happy to present Professor Alessandra Celletti. She got a PhD in mathematics in celestial mechanics in Zurich. She is professor of mathematical physics at the University of Rome, Tor Vergata. And she has a big curriculum, and among the things that I like to stress is she was in the board of the Italian Space Agency and much other things. She is now vice president of the National Agency for the Evaluation of University and Research, which is called ANVUR. So she is the vice president of our evaluation agency. And ANVUR recently released a report on the higher education and research system in Italy. It is just released. So Alessandra will give a talk titled The Italian Research Evaluation and the International Contest. Thank you very much, Alessandra. Please.
Yeah, thank you, Marco. Can you hear me? Can you confirm?
Sure.
Okay, so thank you very much for the invitation to this workshop, and thank you, Lisa, for the organization. So let me just share my screen.
Perfect.
Okay, so can you confirm that you can?
Yes, we see it now.
Okay.
Perfect. Full
good.
screen. Thank you.
It is full screen now. Okay. So first of all, I would like to thank also Will for the nice presentation that he gave. I took a lot of notes, and we are on the same line as usual, and we have been in many boards together. And I would like to take 3 sentences from your talk, which summarize what I'm going to say. That is, evaluation is necessary, peer review remain essential, and metrics cannot fully capture scientific quality. So I think that this is a very good summary of what I'm going to say, and which concerns the Italian research evaluation and the international context. So as Marco was saying, I'm currently in the governing board of ANVUR, and I had with the mandate of the coordination of the VQR. So it was the coordinator of the previous VQR and current VQR, and they see also within the participants that there are many colleagues that took part or are taking part to the evaluation procedure. So what I'm going to say is to describe the evaluation, the current evaluation, which is, we just released the first results. The next results will be given for all areas, including mathematics, will be given on 28th of May. VQR, for those who do not know, the acronym is Valutazione della Qualità della Ricerca. So it is the evaluation of the quality of research. And this, the period to which this evaluation refers is 2020-2024. Now, this is not new because the first evaluation was done already in 2007. And then ANVUR made 4 assessment exercises. But let me say that these exercises evolved in time. And as you see, the last one has many differences with the previous one. So the first one was in the period referring to the period 2004-2010, then 2011-14, 2015-19, and 2020-2024. It must be said in any occasion that, and strongly underline that the evaluation concerns the institution as a whole. It does not concern individual researchers. So those universities which use the results for individual research to evaluate the individual researchers do not make the good job, because the evaluation is done just for institutions. The working group in Hamburg is composed by several people. That is the governing board, which is formed by the professors of working in different fields. Marilena Magnaci, Massimo Tronci, and the past president, Antonio Rico, who just left at the beginning of April. By the way, we are going to finish our mandate at the beginning of June. Then we had the director, Dr. Daniele Livon, the research manager, Marco Margarini, with officials, the account manager, the administrative manager, Walter Brancati, with officials of the area, and the Cineca working group. So it is a big team, because the reason for this big team is clear from what I'm going to say now. So first of all, what do we evaluate? We evaluate institutions which could be state universities, special schools like Scuola Normale di Pisa or SISSA or GSSI, private universities, public research institutions supervised by the ministry, and voluntary institutions. What is evaluated in the VQR? We have scientific research outputs, and in the current evaluation we gave more importance to the outputs and the articles coming from PhDs. Knowledge valorization, which was previously known as third mission, and then the two new items which are new in the current evaluation, which are research projects and research infrastructure. The group of experts, each area has a group of experts, and we have 17 disciplinary areas from mathematics and informatics, physics, chemistry, to economics and social and political science. Then we have 2 interdisciplinary areas, which are knowledge valorization, infrastructure, and then we have the evaluation also the international competitive projects. So altogether, we have a huge number of experts, 723. Which make, and each of these groups of experts is called the GEV. The acronym stands for Group of Experts of Evaluation. And then they are supported by 25 assistants. The reason for these large numbers of people working in the evaluation is that we need to evaluate the people involved are a total number of more than 75,000 people who delivered about almost 200,000 outputs, which could be articles, monographs, patents. So the 199,816 is the final number of outputs that have been assessed. Then we have case studies within the field of knowledge valorization, 858 case studies. We have competitive projects. We received 6,802 projects and 11 infrastructure. The number of institutions which have been involved is 132, which means 100 universities, 13 public research centers, institutions supervised by the ministry, and then 19 institutions which participated on a voluntary basis. Let me also say that beside the disciplinary experts, the group of experts, the GEFs and their assistants, we also had the help of 6,750 peer reviewers. What are the objectives of the VQR? These are included in this page. So to promote excellence in national research, encourage the participation to research, improve the recruitment process and career progression, also strengthen integration between research institutions, industry, schools, through third mission activities, improve the quality of the doctoral education. We have a special indicator, which is a profile which is evaluated for PhD schools. Enhance technology transfer activities and support knowledge valorization. Increase international visibility and participation to international competitive fundings and optimize spending capacity and enhancing a national research infrastructure. So these are the main objectives of the evaluation exercise, which is founded upon the following methodology. So this is summarized here in this figure. So each output, again, could be an article, a proceeding paper, a patent, monograph, is assigned to 2 experts of the evaluation. So 2 members of the JEVs, which are experts for each specific area. If they do not have enough expertise to evaluate the product, they could also get the help of external peer reviewers, hence the number of 6,700 peer reviewers. Then the evaluation is based on general criteria and also those specific of the area. So as Will was saying, mathematics, for example, has its own criteria, its own journals, less citations. So they needed to, the group of experts at the first area 1, was indeed choosing a list and compiling a list of journals and using a MathSciNet in order to get better indicators than other indicators. So in general, but this evaluation is not only for mathematics, it is for all the areas. So the evaluation is based on peer review, poor peer review for several areas, or informed peer review for bibliometric areas, let's say, or some areas, more scientific areas, where I will say that bibliometric indicators will just have a partial role. I mean, we want to really to have a responsible use of the bibliometric integrators. This is why we call the informed peer review. I will be more specific in a moment. And then the final approval is given by the group of experts. Anyway, the core point is the evaluation given by peer review. So what do we mean by peer review? Well, when appropriate with respect to the characteristics of the area, the peer review can be informed by international indicators, which means that for each publication indexed in the main bibliometric databases, that is Web of Science and Scopus, ANVOR made available the following information: the number of citations received at a specific date, but also the number of self-citations, because we do not want to have too many self-citations, and which means citations coming from the author that delivered the product. And then impact indicators, so the publication site journal and related metrics like site score, SJR, and so on. Let me say that contrary to the previous evaluation exercises, we did not cross the information between citations, self-citations, and impact indicators. And these were given only as a supplementary information, but the core of the assessment was the peer review. So we did not give, if somebody knows how the previous VQR was working, there was a correlation between citations and impact indicators in a specific square, and this was eliminated from the current evaluation. Then we have also the assessment of knowledge valorization, which is meant as the process through which economic and social value is generated from knowledge, connecting different areas and sectors. And within knowledge valorization, institutions delivered case studies of activities whose impact was verifiable either partially or over the entire period of the evaluation, that is 2020-2024. What is the distribution of these 858 case studies? Well, most of them were delivered on one thematic area, 357, but also on 2 thematic areas, 297, and 3 thematic areas, 204. And these are the fields in which the case studies have been delivered. That is 16.6% in technology transfer, 19.5% in production and management of public goods. Like in the previous exercise, most of the case studies have been delivered in public engagement, 32.7, almost 1/3 of the whole activities. 11.5 in life and sciences, and the remaining part, 19.7 in environmental sustainability, inclusion and combating inequality, with particular reference to the objectives of the ONU Agenda 2030. We also assessed for the first time international competitive projects, that is, projects which were successfully awarded and activated within the evaluation period with some requirements. A minimum amount of 50,000 euros for the submitting institution. They should have been funded by non-national or non-local public or private bodies, for example, European Commission, so ERCs, Marie Curie networks, but also European Space Agency, NASA, and so on. They should have been awarded on an international competitive basis through peer review. And then the size of these competitive projects was evaluated on the financial scale, but in relation to the reference area, because of course there are areas which get more funds than others. We very well know this in mathematics, and also within mathematics, there are areas which are funded more than others. So this is why we split, we assessed and weighted this financial scale also on the basis of the disciplinary group of the PI and co-PI. Then the research infrastructure are facilities also distributed within the European Union, including those located in Italy, EFTA countries, United Kingdom, resources and services connected to them, and characterized by open access to the scientific community and priority of access based on the quality of proposals evaluated by the governing bodies of the infrastructure. How do we how do the JEBs, the experts, evaluate the products? They evaluate based on 3 criteria, that is originality, methodology, and impact. And then they assign each output, scientific output, case study, or infrastructure to a class of merit, which is exceptional, excellent, standard, sufficient, marginal relevance, or non-acceptable, with related scores. What is the comparison with the international context and good practices from this evaluation exercise? First of all, let me remind you that since the 1990s, many countries have developed funding systems based on the evaluation of the academic performance. But in recent years, these methodologies have been at the center of a very intense international debate. Just to mention some of them, the San Francisco Declaration of Research Assessment on Proper Use of Bibliometric Indicators, the DORA document, the Leiden Manifesto on Research Metrics, and the Agreement on Reforming Research Assessment promoted by COARA, so the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment. What does ANVUR, how does ANVUR places itself in this context? It will be clear in a moment. Let me say that, first of all, we took into serious consideration the principles given by the 10 principles given by COARA, among which the one that I'm underlining now, that is to base the evaluation exercises on peer review, supported by a responsible use of metrics. This is why we did not connect anymore the indicators. The indicators are just, well, you can use it or not. You can use the citations or not, but the message that we transferred to the group of experts was that to be evaluated, each product has to be read. So within COARA, ANVUR was among the first signatories of the COARA commitment. ANVUR is also one of the 14 agencies involved in the ENCA working group on quality assurance in research, which aims to explore the state of the art of quality assurance. And AMBUR participates regularly to the activities of the Agora Consortium, so the Global Observatory responsible research assessment. What are the good practices that we took into account in the current evaluation procedure? So first of all, in the current VQR, the role of peer review was strengthened. As I was saying before, multiple international citation indices does not require the consolidation into a single interpretation code, the square that was given in previous exercises. This was given also and was underlined in training meetings that we made with all JEFs, with the coordinators of the areas and with all experts involved, almost 700 experts involved in the evaluation exercise. We underline that citation indicators cannot replace a thorough evaluation of the research product's merit, nor can they automatically assign the product to one of the classes of merits. The evaluation is based uniquely on the quality of the product, and it is independent of the type of product, the language in which the product is written. This is particularly relevant for humanities areas. The assessment took the number of self-citations into serious consideration, and we also considered some potential cases of plagiarism that we carefully considered within the agency. Unlike past assessment exercises, the methodology criterion has been defined rightly to encourage evaluators to pay attention not only to the rigor of logical steps, but also to other aspects like reproducibility, transparency, accessibility, reuse of data. So the definition of the methodology criterion is given here, and as you see, it is underlined that the products should be assessed also on the aspects of reusability of results, transparency, and access to the data. Let me also say that the institutions were required to indicate at the time of submission whether the publications were open access. This is extremely important for us because we asked the link to the documents at the time of the submission. In any case, within the end of the assessment exercise, they will need to provide the link to open access documents. And to ensure full transparency, at the end of the assessment exercise, AMBUR will publish the complete list of metadata of the evaluated products on its website, also making available the link to the open access whenever possible. Let me also say that one of the fields of action under knowledge valorization includes actions for the development of open science. Let me come now to some conclusions. So first of all, the VQR provides an overall picture of research performed in our country, which places strong emphasis on the quality and promotion of the recruitment of young researchers. This is a point that we underlined in the meeting, in the conference that we gave on April 16, where we presented the first results. We also mentioned that the evaluation of knowledge valorization activities has shown that institutions are engaged in a wide range of activities that cover several thematic areas and fields of action. There was a very good institutional participation to research projects, competitive research projects, and this gives an overall overview of the applications of Italian researchers to internationally competitive projects. The evaluation of the exercise of infrastructure was limited to research, public research institutions and voluntary institutions, and it was based on a voluntary basis. Nevertheless, it was done in a very effective way. Of course, we hope that the exercise that was done in the current evaluation can be applied more systematically in future evaluation exercises. Concerning peer review, we strongly believe that there are very many differences across areas and within areas, And we strongly encourage analysis and studies on the evaluation approaches, in particular those for STEM and life sciences disciplines and those for humanities and social sciences areas, especially to limit possible differences in the final evaluation outcomes. And now let me come to the final slide, where I showed the documents of the previous VQR, the one 2015-2019, and which includes all regulatory references and Anvur documents, presentations, the documents given by the group of experts, the final report, the other reports, institution reports, and these two documents that I underline in red, which in my opinion are very important and were done for the first time in the previous exercise. I hope that the next governing board will keep this activity, because I strongly believe that there is no good assessment, no good evaluation without a self-evaluation of the evaluation itself. So this is why within Anvur we made a critical analysis report of strengths and weaknesses of the evaluation exercise. We published this report, and beside that, we appointed a team of international experts to make a critical analysis of the evaluation exercise. This was extremely helpful. The experts worked for several months. We worked with them at the end of their job, and we took into serious considerations their suggestions, and this is why the current VQR is different than the previous one. We are going to finish on 28th of May. By that date, all results will be made available to institutions and researchers, and all documents will be published on the Anvur website. So this is all from my side, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Grazie, grazie Alessandra. Thanks for your very nice talk, and thanks also for your very important job in Anvur and for this final report that you are finishing. Thank you very much. It will be, as usual, very useful for our research system in Italy and all over the world. So thank you very much. So I'd like to go further with the third speaker, which is Domingo Docampo. Domingo, oh, yes, Domingo, you are here. Thank you very much. Sorry, difficult to see you. So he got a PhD in mathematics in Valladolid, Department of Signal Theory and Communication. He was also president of his university for a while. I saw that, among other, he was the founder of a very nice consortium, which today includes more than 100 universities and major IT companies in Spain and in South America. So cooperation between research and companies, very nice. Thank you very much, important. His research fields is game and decision theory, linear and nonlinear prediction, algorithms, spectral analysis, and constructive approximation. But moreover, he is also very well known for his work on university ranking, citation analysis, and bibliometrics. So he is very pertinent of the argument of today. So he will, the title of the talk is very long, The Signal and the Noise, Separating Genuine Mathematics Influence from Artificially Inflated Metrics. Restoring trust in mathematics research evaluation. Wow, let's hope we can do it. Domingo, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you, Mark. I was trying to grab your attention with the title, so
yeah, you did.
Yeah. Okay, being the third speaker means that most of the things I was planning to say have been already said, which is not bad because that will allow me to finish on time. No? So let me now try and share my presentation. Let me see. Opa. What did I do?
You go down, condividi share,
Yeah,
last line.
but I'm not seeing the screen right now. I don't know why. Oh my God. It's like an assistant or something. I think I have to join again. Ah, okay. Now, share and
Okay, it's getting on.
now we have to make it
Full presentation, full screen.
full screen, which is somewhere.
Vista. Go to Vista.
Vista here.
Towards the right, yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Don't worry.
I see normal, but I don't see full screen. So I'm in the PowerPoint.
So
page.
just try Control L. Let's see whether it
okay,
works.
Control L, great.
L. Let's see whether it works. I'm not sure.
No.
It does with PDF, but
Control L, no. It's Control F something.
Go to the top left. There is very top left.
Yeah.
Next to the word signal, on the left of the word signal, there is a symbol that looks like more top, more up. Okay, now go right. There is this symbol. What is this?
Is that okay now?
No, I don't know what is it. What does it say? It says something.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
You're in. You're in. Thank you very much.
Great. Sorry for that. Okay.
Thank you, Valeria.
I think that my presentation will somehow complement Will's. I will put some flesh on his arguments, some data. But let me thank Alessandra for telling us how difficult it is to make the evaluation possible at the highest level, at the national level. And we have a problem with bibliometrics. It's no longer reliable, and that makes it even more cumbersome. So in my presentation, I will refer to 4 indicators that we used to trust, but we don't anymore. Then the signal and the noise part of the talk will be to analyze the evolution of the top 1% indicator, the indicator that used to point to excellence. Then I will mention blatant examples of fraudulent citation. And finally, I will end up with my contribution to the field, which is an algorithm that can somehow try and restore trust in bibliometric information. The 4 indicators I will comment on, basically the top 1%, are this. Top 1% is, of course, papers that have that are among the 1% most cited within a field, within a year, and for the same document type. Closely related to that is the normalized citation impact. There we compare with the baseline, which is the average. So average is 1. If you are on top of 1, you do better. Below 1, you do worse. Percentage of Q1 articles, as it says, and the H index, you all know that, but this is the only one that cannot be used across scientific fields because it's not field normalized. So we shouldn't ever compare H indexes in different fields like mathematics and chemistry or mathematics and physics. Although some people like to do that when it goes in their favor. We all know that. Let's start by taking a look at this table. This shows what happened 25 years ago with the list of institutions that produce most of the top 1% papers. I think we all recognize the institutions there. Maybe there could be others, but the ones that are there are okay for us, are mathematical powerhouses. And take a look at the colors. Green is for North America, United States and Canada, and yellow is for Europe. And there is a blue line for the Chinese Academy of Sciences. This was from 2000 to 2004. Let's now move 10 years later. It's the same. If we move forward 10 years, basically the picture is the same, yellow, green, same institutions, but for one new institution, King Abdulaziz University, that you know well, was the first one who played with affiliations to the Clarivate Analytics highly cited list. They used to purchase affiliations. I think the price was like $60,000. Maybe that's good for academics, but it's spare change for the Saudis. But they were already cheating at the time. And now let's move from the signal in this page to the noise 10 years later. Currently, these are the institutions that produce most of top 1% papers. I think that we can all agree that this is not possible. This is so unlikely that's not possible. So something is going on there. If we go to the subfields in mathematics, as Will was saying, they are different. Numerical analysis, statistics, functional analysis. For pure mathematics, I had to enlarge the years to 5 years, because otherwise we wouldn't have numbers here. If you look at the top institution, is Lebanon, Pakistan, Algeria, and Tunisia. It's so unlikely that you wonder what happens. No? And what happens is what Will was reporting at the beginning. Concerted efforts of people that work together to artificially increase their metrics. And by the way, Alessandra, they now avoid self-citations. They know how to dodge that. They cite other people. They never cite themselves. Some of these rings of people, they are very good at that. They are smart. I found one like the signature of the. This was already said, so I know this one I want to tackle. Although I'm talking about top 1%, don't think that this is the only indicator that is compromised. No, the manipulation goes down to the other indicators. Let's take a look at this page. This is a page I used in Beckham, the Basque Center for Applied Mathematics, 3 or 4 years ago, to show them how the percentage of Q1 articles was okay, but if they compare their number with the top performers, it was like half the figure. But if you look at the top performers, you see, again, Middle East institutions, nobody knows, something is going on here. In the lower part of the table, I did the usual comparison with good institutions, and there Beckham is okay, it's in the middle. And I want you to look at the last 2 columns, because that is the elephant in the room. Is the MDPI journals, is the number of articles in MDPI journals and the percentage of articles in MDPI journals. Take into account that nowadays, the articles that are highly cited receive most of their citations from this kind of journals. Not only journals in mathematics, but also journals in engineering, like sensors, sustainability, entropy, etc., etc. And one of the signatures of the people who cheat, I found, is this one. Well, the table here shows institutions, but there was another column, the first column, with names. I just took off the names. It shows people from these institutions, and it shows the number of citations and the number of citing papers. If you divide the number of citations by the number of citing articles, you get a figure that is very telling. Let me tell you, in mathematics, for people with more than 20 papers, the usual ratio between the citing papers to your articles and the total number of citations is 1.4 average. 80% of researchers have a span between 1.1 and 1.6. 95% of researchers below 2. On top of 3, only 1 in 1,000 mathematicians. Look, to have a ratio of 3.5, it means that you have to have a large number of papers that cite your work 15, 20, or 25 times in the same paper, which is, well, let's say, very difficult, very unlikely that people cite you 25 times in a paper. I'm going to show you now cases where this is outrageous. Now I put names. These two guys are people who have in excess, one of them in excess of 50 top 1% papers in the last 10 years. 50. Much more than Princeton and Stanford together. Just one guy. And they work in functional analysis. You see the titles of the papers, you get the flavor of their research. And looking up in the reference, in the citing articles, I found this article in Polymer Bulletin. Nothing to do with functional analysis, nothing to do with mathematics, chemistry, all over. But it cites Chu's work 35 times and Zhao's work 20 times. And also carries 13 citations to another researcher I will talk about later. Now, please take a look at the kind of references they make in the paper. This is how they throw the references in the paper. Totally unrelated, totally uncalled for, nothing to do with the reference. This shows you that paper mills nowadays not only cater for publications, they also cater for citations. I think they sell citations. They promise you you will be receiving so many citations if you pay something. Now, let me move to the other researcher. In this case, it's not mathematics, it's in engineering. And I found this citing paper by some people in Iran, a bibliometric analysis, and it's about microbial biofilms during COVID-19. Nothing to do with the work of this researcher. But look at the citations. First one, they cite a Polish researcher, Dabrowska, Italia, number 23, in the text. If you go to the list of references, there is no mention of Dabrowska. You will find Lee C. and colleagues. So there has been a switch there. But look at the most outrageous case. They elaborate a table with the most cited documents in the field of microbial biofilms during COVID-19. So you see references 35, 36, 37, one, Balasubramanian and Nayar. When you go to the references, you won't find them. You will find Lee C, and colleagues. Okay, you may think that I have cherry-picked these examples, and you are right. I cherry-picked them. I had more examples. But look, I believe that if this can happen, anything can happen in this kind of journals. Anything can happen. So, for the second part of my talk, with my colleague Lawrence Cram in Canberra, we were trying to figure out how to fight this, how to make bibliometrics more reliable. And the first thing that occurred to us is that although we treat citations the same, they are not the same. Look, this is the table of number of publications per year in the journal Annals of Mathematics, a well-reputed journal, and the journal Mathematics by MDPI. It started the relation was 2 to 1. Nowadays is 150 to 1, sometimes 200 to 1. So we thought of citations like coins from different currencies. They are not the same. The value is not the same. So we needed a clearing house, like an exchange rate, something that could put value on citations. So that if I analyze a paper, I can do business as usual and count the number of citations, or weight the citations by the reputation of the source, the journal and the institution behind. And that could give us a different lecture, a different picture of the work of a researcher. So we searched the literature and we found the work of Pinsky and Narin some 50 years ago. They solved this problem for journals. They create the matrix of citations among journals and treat that as a Markov chain. So the stationary distribution of the Markov chain will give you the influence of each journal. By the way, there is an indicator on the Web of Science, well, specifically if you use Insights, the motor to work on the Web of Science, that is article influence. That indicator is based upon this, the work of Pinsky and Narin. And for your knowledge, this is the same thing that Google does with the PageRank to classify web pages. It's the same thing, a Markov process, a Markov chain, and the stationary distribution. So what we did, my colleague and I, was we wanted to put institutions and journals, so we created two matrices from journals to institutions and to institutions to journals. So we have a kind of a recirculation of reputation. And then we look for the dominant eigenvalue of the product of the matrices, and the eigenvector will give you the scores, the influence scores of journals and institutions. I'm going to show you the results of this algorithm, the 20 on top. If you agree with me that the results are sound, then I can go on with the rest of my talk. This will be the 20 top journals. This is data driven. I didn't put any information there. It's just the data talking, okay? And I think you could agree with me that it's okay. There could be others there, but it's all right. The good ones are there, and there is no bullshit on the list. If you go with institutions, maybe we also can agree that, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. By the way, the green and yellow colors are back. Now, what we did with this was the following experiment. It was in 2023. We did, sorry, before going there. Now take a look of the producers of top 1% papers, journals. This is from 2023 to 2025. NDPI, 229 top 1% papers in mathematics, 117 top 1% papers in fractal and fractional, 32 in axioms, 30 in symmetry basal. And look at the scores in the last column of our algorithm, 0 point something, let's say 0.5. Go down on the list, look for the best journals, and look at the number of top 1% papers in the top journals. As Will was saying, Terence Tao is not there. Of course it's not there. These journals are not there because the space has been occupied by the others. But the score is different. So you can imagine that if you have a citation from Acta Numerica, counts 20. If you have a citation from mathematics, it counts 0.33. So in our algorithm, you will need like 60 citations in mathematics to cover for just one citation in Acta Numerica. Okay, now for institutions. Again, on top, the institutions that produce most of the top 1% papers. their score. In this case, the scores are between 8 and 1. So it's the minimum possible, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. If you go down to the best institutions, it's 8, 7, 6, so it's at least 5 times. So now, if you have a citation in Acta Numerica by a person from Princeton University, it will count as 100 or 150 times a citation in mathematics by an author from China Medical University in Taiwan. The experiment now is the following. We built a control group of 150 researchers, field medalists, Abel prizes, other prizes, also advanced European research grant holders. Because we believe those are influential mathematicians. And we compare their results in the algorithm. By the way, this was a previous version of the algorithm reported in that paper on top. And so we have 150 in the control group, we have 150 in the test group. Now go down to the table. In the table, we separate the first 100 scores and the last 100 scores. In the first 100, we see the distribution is 88 researchers belong to the control group, 12 researchers belong to the test group. In fact, the top 20 is dominated by the control group 19-1. But if you go to the third tier, to the last ones on the list, you will find that 95 of them are researchers from the test group. This is a way of disentangling influence from impact. It tells you that the indicator of impact is not a good proxy for influence, not at all. Well, now let me just say a couple of things. What we can do. First, to acknowledge the problem. We're doing it here today. Good. And second, do whatever it takes. You remember the sentence, don't you? Do whatever it takes to prevent this from happening in our communities. For researchers, I will suggest at least to report any suspicion citation patterns and to demand action from editors and publishers. And when we act in committees, hiring and promoting committees, I will suggest to show no mercy to people who cheat, to people who use this kind of strategies to climb the ladder, because we will regret it later on otherwise. For us, for the people who work on bibliometric and data analytics, I also suggest to look for ways to restore trust in bibliometric information. Well, I hope this has been useful for you. This is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Domingo.
Thank you very much, Domingo. Thank you very much. Very nice, very nice. It was a very nice afternoon up to now. Thank you to all the three speakers. And so we proceed further, and I ask the help of the three organizers. Elisa.
Yes, on the chat at the moment there is a question posted by Giovanni Rastelli. I don't know, Giovanni.
And also from Caterina Stoppato.
And Caterina, but we'll just give a
Sure.
About if you want, we can also discuss on this.
Yes, I'm here.
Giovanni.
I'm Giovanni. Hi, everybody. And thank you for the very nice presentation of all these problems. No, my concern is mainly about how to find the journals and the publishers that use this kind of fraudulent practices like predatory journals, like cheating on bibliographical indices and so on. There are lists on the web that one can find, but of course, how to be sure that these lists are reliable, for example. And my question is, are there public lists where to compare, where to find if the journals you are dealing with have a good reputation or not.
Elisa, will you handle the questions and will you ask the speakers if anybody wants to answer or add a comment?
I think that also Ambur gave some idea about the some idea about this.
Well, yes, okay, I will take the question, yes, but there is no definite answer. I'm sorry, but there is no list of good and bad journals. The group of experts in Area 1 made a list of journals which are good journals, I mean, for mathematics, and they ranked the list according to Matsenet, who gave for free the indicators and the rankings. So this is a good starting point. However, let me say that, in my opinion, the answer can not be a list. This is a dynamic process. Things are changing. What I suggest to my young collaborators is always to look at the editorial board. The editorial board should be sufficiently, I mean, is a good indication of the value of the journal. I want also to comment on the last, take the opportunity to comment on the last presentation by Domingo. But this time, not raising the question as an Hamburg member, but rather as a researcher, and especially as editor of a small journal. I'm editor-in-chief of Celestial Mechanics and Dynamical Astronomy. Well, it is not at the level of Annals of Mathematica, but it underwent the same trend that is from in the last 10 years, it was decreasing the number of papers. That was very common to many sub-areas, journals, small journals with dedicated subjects. The problem in that case is that I need to find the good words, because I don't want to be too unpolite, but the main problem is to find the good balance with the publishers, because we have opposite goals. We researchers want to publish on good journals. We editors, responsible editors, want to have journals with good publications. The publishers want to earn money and to make money. So these are opposite trends. And now I ask the question to you, Domingo, and to Will, and to Marco. How can we counteract, in this case, the publisher's trends? This is the main point that we need to face. Look at what is happening, for example, in chemistry. They are funding journals from internal societies, which are not related to publishers. This means that journals are not intended to make money. They are intended to publish good papers. So I was fighting as editor-in-chief of my journal. I did not increase the papers, even if I could have taken papers from here and there. We rejected papers that were published somewhere else, and that with journals with a bigger impact factor. So I think that the main question to be solved at this moment, the historical moment, is the following: are we able to found new journals which encompass the problem of having publishers just looking to earning money?
That is a very tough question, Alessandra. You know it, because the power is concentrated in so few industries that they control the whole publishing. So yeah, we need other agents that are willing to invest in journals in the good way, to invest in journals that are prestigious, that will last a long time, and that are good for mathematicians and are good for science. And it's difficult to find them among the current publishers. Plus, mathematics has been, I think, that they has been targeted by these groups, especially MDPI. If you look at the journals that cover mathematics, there is a strong presence of MDPI and predatory journals. So, yeah, we need them. We need people who invest in good journals. But I don't have the recipe. I don't know. We need learned societies. We need even industries who could work with us, like in Siam, like Will said in Siam. But how to get that, I don't have the answer. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could maybe, but I think Valeria, were you have your hand up already for a long time. Were you going to ask a new question, or were you going to?
I wanted to ask a new question. So please, if you want to comment on this, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. No, I agree with Domingo. I mean, so I mentioned indeed Siam as a nice example. I mean, they are from a learned society, and I mean, they are extremely strict in their reviewing system is fantastic, and as you can see, I mean, zero retractions. So I think that's a good example for the rest of the publishers. I think we should go more to these kind of publishers, I think.
Okay, thank you, Will. Valeria?
I wanted to ask a question to Will about something he said during his presentation. And Will, you mentioned that reviewing step is fundamental, and I fully agree, of course. But there are issues that contradict themselves in this system. So reviewers do this activity for free. They're not paid usually, most of the time. And the number of reviews that are asked, it's growing. I'm not saying yearly, but monthly, meaning that the number of requests is incredibly growing. At the same time, you said that the reviewers, since they are so busy now, they do not do a good job at reviewing. And especially because all these paper mills are all similar to each other. So thanks to artificial intelligence. Now, can we see, in your opinion, can we see artificial intelligence as a tool to help us in this reviewing system? And in addition to other actions that journals are taking, for instance, something that I was surprised to see, but in the end I agree that some journals are limiting the number of submissions per year by the same authors. To say to 6 or 7, in my opinion, is incredible to submit 6, 7 papers to the same journal, but apparently it happens. And what do you think about using artificial intelligence in a positive way?
Yeah, I think, I mean, so it's a very good question. Thank you very much, Valeria. I mean, I gave the example of this computer scientist who sent me an email, and he did this deliberate test, where he put errors in 3 papers, and then they gave it to 80 reviewers. And what I didn't say in my presentation is that what they also did was they used artificial intelligence to study the papers. And the artificial intelligence actually found in the 3 papers the mistakes. Yeah, so maybe that could be used as a tool, maybe initial step, and maybe even by the publishers themselves to analyze papers and then give the results to reviewers. I was also recently involved in some review panels in Hungary, and before we were doing our reviews, they gave us the outcome of what AI had said about the papers. Yeah, so I mean, maybe in the positive way, AI can be used indeed to help reviewers. As you say, I mean, reviewers are not paid usually; they have to do things for free. Maybe that's not how people nowadays work. In ERC, for example, reviewers get paid. Not in all national funding agencies they get paid. So yeah, it puts some stress on the system, but maybe AI indeed can be used in a positive way. So to help evaluate the papers or do an initial evaluation, and then reviewers can still do their work, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Will. Okay, Caterina Stoppato, a question on the chat. No.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. I'm here. I think I can repeat it briefly. My question was, how can we expose a group of authors who systematically use fraudulent practices? In my case, what happened is that I have reviewed as a referee tens of manuscripts. They were minimal variations one of the other, and none of them correctly cited the others. Sometimes they were almost carbon copies of one another, and then I found out that about 30 of them are now finally published by other journals, of course. Of course, in my reports, I recommended rejecting them, but they did manage to get published by several different journals. It's not one journal or two journals who published them, but about, I think, 20 different journals. Some of them are probably not so relevant in the community, but some are reasonable journals. So, of course, Will gave this answer, of course, to let the editors of the journals know, and that's good advice. But my question is, how do all other journals know beforehand that they shouldn't consider for publication such works? Is there a way to let the public know, a correct way, an advisable way to let the public know that they should avoid this group of authors or be very careful about them at least?
Yeah, that's a difficult issue, Katarina. So, I mean, I gave the answer, but I mean, indeed, I mean, if you reject the papers, they can still send it to other journals, and if they have a commercial, if they want to handle it in a commercial way, they would like to publish it probably and get a reviewer to say, yes, please go ahead and publish this. But I mean, should we make black lists of people? That's very very difficult, and also, as I said, I mean, legally not very. I mean, you have to be very secure of your case in order to do that, of course. But I don't know how to handle this. I'm sorry. Yeah.
If I may comment briefly on that, Will, as you were suggesting, I think it's good to inform the editor-in-chief and then to somehow hoping that the editor-in-chief informs the publisher and the publisher opens up an ethical discussion. Even if that ethical discussion is in the favor of the authors. If another person will complain, I mean, if these are recorded at some point, they will be known.
Yeah.
And then papers will be retracted, and then community will know, because if I got a paper retracted, it would be an accident. But if I get 10 paper retracted, it's an issue.
Yeah.
And I think it's our responsibility as authors, as reviewers, as editors, if you find weird things, to inform the editor-in-chief, to inform the publisher. And good things will come on the surface at the end, but it's a struggle. There is no other way. Yeah, and I agree with Will was mentioning to avoid direct confrontations with authors. But just it's the responsibility of the publisher also to do something. It's not only of the author and of the referee.
Yeah.
I stop talking.
Thank you both very much. I'm sorry I have to leave now, so
Bye.
thank you all for your nice talks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, on the chat there is a question posed by Giovanni, no, Stefano Disca before. A question for Professor Docampo. Stefano? Okay, Stefano posed a question about a paper published on mathematics.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can read the question here in the chat. Yeah. Well, he says that having just a paper on mathematics, well, you know, a paper is not the issue. The thing is, if you continue producing papers in this kind of journals, then that will damage your reputation and will damage your career. One is an accident. One paper is an accident.
Okay, thank you. Giovanni Barbarino, next.
Yeah, sorry it's just what is it? Hello?
Maybe type the question.
Yeah, it's there. It's there in the
Oh,
chat.
so
Yeah.
There is the question in the chat. Yeah, Giovanni?
Yes, I'm do you hear me?
Okay, but can I give an answer to this question? Because sorry, Giovanni, but we don't hear you. There is a kind of echo. Or, so your question is do we really need publishers? What about open access peer-reviewed editors coming from academy? Okay. So avoiding printing journals. So there are journals, as I was mentioning before, there are journals, especially those from societies, which do not have publishers. So these are done. These are ruled only by the societies. And to be honest, I don't also think that it is really necessary to have big investments to make a journal. For example, well, I'm contributing also to another journal, which is Mathematics Research Reports, and this is online, and I know that there are systems which allow to publish journals, to publish papers with an overall amount of less than 10,000 euros per year. So that was this is the amount that you need to fund the journal and make it available open access. Of course, if you want to print it, then it's another story. But if you don't want to print it and you leave it online, then the amount of money is reasonable. I mean, at least for societies, it's something that can be done. So I hope this answers your question. In that case, you don't need the publisher, and you just need somebody willing to make the job.
Okay, Will?
yeah, is it allowed that speakers also ask question to another speaker? I would like to ask Domingo. I mean, I was very shocked by what you said, Domingo, about I mean, this change in the citations. I mean, in the list of references. I mean, so they are supposed to cite some person, but then in the list of references, there's a completely different paper. Yeah, so this is very shocking, I think. Do reviewers usually check that, or is that?
I don't think it's for the reviewer to check, because that happens probably later on. Yeah, once the paper has been accepted, in the editing phase, I think some people intervene there and change lists. I think at that moment they also add authors to the list of authors. So this is the business model. You first get the paper accepted, and then in the final process, you add authors, you suppress authors, you add citations, or you change references. It's outrageous. It's outrageous.
Yeah.
And I was commenting with some people from Clarivate Analytics about this and said, how come this that bulletin, chemistry bulletin or polymer bulletin, how come do you still index this kind of journals? Yeah, I will pass the information to the appropriate department. Yeah, the appropriate department, their business model is not to suppress journals, it's to get as many journals as possible and as many papers as
That's
possible.
their business model, yeah.
So that is the conflict that Alessandra was talking about. It's difficult,
yeah.
Alberto Marcone?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, okay. So I wanted to comment on this idea of having journals which are sort of self-published. In my area, there is a journal which was published by one of the leading, one of these private companies, and then the whole editorial board actually decided to move away because something was not working, and they found some financing from one of this learned society, and they are starting a new journal. And I was thinking, well, maybe I can send a paper to them, I mean, in support for this move. But the fact is that by moving to a new publisher, they are not indexed in Scopus and this other index like that. For me, it would be okay to do this. My co-author is one of my PhD students. He needs to get, papers that are recognized because he has to apply next year for postdoc position and so on and so forth. And so eventually I decided to send to another journal the same paper because, it was something that was maybe, dangerous for his future. And so that's, just to point out another issue that comes up even when some journals decide to do this move from commercial publishing to, sort of self, published by the scientific community. In this way, I have a cat here that is trying to get in front of the camera, but besides that, I think I'm done with my observation. It's not really a question, but it's, another issue that comes up, I think. I mean, maybe somebody wants to comment on it.
Yeah. Thank you, Alberto. Okay, a question about ANVUR. Are national systems like ANVUR part of the problem, or can they be part of the solution?
This is a very nice question. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I cannot say that it is not part of the system because it is the evaluation is relies of course on journals, and journals are on articles, and articles are published by journals. So, but how cannot that be part of the system? As I said, as I tried to say before, during my mandate, which was quite long, it was almost 6 years. Well, it is 6 years. In fact, it is more than 6 years. We tried to stop, to prevent bad habits in publications. And this is why we changed the rules in the last evaluation exercise. Nevertheless, let me say that the last, so in principle, we try to do it. But of course, we need also to respect some rules. And the rules are the ministerial decrees. So the rules come from the ministry. So ANVUR is not the agency that makes the laws. But the laws comes from the ministry. So this is something that it is often, the role of ANVUR is often not clear in Italy. So, for example, also the VQR comes from the ministerial decree August 2023. So, and then we start all the procedure, and we start the new procedure, and so on and so forth. Nevertheless, There is another point that I would like to, to answer your question, sorry, I don't want to not to answer your question, but of course we are in the system, but we try to stop inappropriate ways to publish. There are, beside the evaluation exercise, there are, nevertheless, there are other points that need to be investigated. That is, for example, the abilitazione scientifica nazionale, so the way in which young researchers or people are hired in universities. This relies on indicators, which I don't like very much. But we did not choose to make the abilitazione, the habilitation in this way. Nevertheless, people, when people need to get a position, they need to have the abilitazione, and the abilitazione needs that you publish on the first quartile, or that you publish on high impact factor journals. So this is not good. And I could subscribe everywhere that this is something that is not making a good job for the Italian system of research. Especially because during my job in Hamburg, I had the opportunity several times to talk with the databases like Web of Science and Scopus. And several times I asked them, for example, how do you compute the impact factor? Does everybody know how the impact factor is computed? Why some journals get the impact factor after 1 year and others get the impact factor after 3 years? So the answer, I did not get any answer. Yes, this is a good question. I will answer you next time. Okay, and then after 6 months, I made the question again. You know that I'm rather, I never give up. So I made the question, and then in the end, they asked me to go to a meeting about these topics, and they said no, I will not come, simply because I never got in these 6 years the good answers. So I want to know, how do they compute the impact factor, and how do they assign the impact factor? Because this is not clear to me. This is an important statement that should be taken into account. So, in principle, when we hire people, we should see the content of the papers, not we always say that in Hamburg we say dobbiamo vedere il contenuto e non il contenitore. So we need to see the content of the paper, not the journal in which it is published. We don't have to rely on the length of the papers. I saw CVs of young people where they were written, my publications amount to 250 pages. Come on, 250 pages, and we counted the number of pages. Einstein formula E = mc squared is in a paper published in an article of 3 pages long. So this is what I was saying to the publishers, I was saying to directors, and I think that this answers your question, Elisa. I was member of Hamburg and trying to make my job in this way, also fighting with the system of that give the bibliometric indicators.
Okay, thank you. Another question. What are the 2-3 actions that could be implemented realistically in the next year? And what role should the mathematical society, such as UMI, MS, ICHAM, and so on, play? Is it possible to fix some ideas, some actions that the association together could consider in order to go on?
Yeah, maybe I can start. So I think And that's also what we try to do with the papers that we wrote together with the IMU and IKEAM to make people aware of this problem. Yeah, so I think that is very important. When I put this afternoon's meeting also on LinkedIn, and one of the replies was from Africa. What the person says, he's from Ghana. He says it's increasingly alarming the number of articles being withdrawn, and still those articles getting citations, etc. So, I mean, also in Africa, and we have many contacts there, it's becoming a problem, and maybe also in Asia. So we want, as IKEAM, we want to make people first aware of the problem, and hopefully then people will, as also the question of Katerina, I mean, that people say, okay, but I see that some people have bad practices here, so trying to avoid these people or to accuse these people. Yeah, so I think this is part of the process that we should. I mean, we can think of solutions, of course, but first we should make people very aware of the problem, and not everybody is aware. So I think also the session that you're organizing this afternoon is very, very, very helpful for this.
Okay, thank you.
I concur with Will that raising awareness is important, and but we have been 5 years raising awareness, so we need action. I'm not politically correct, so we need to do something. We need to let them know, that they will not get away with it. We need to penalize this kind of behavior. How? I don't have the recipe, but we need to penalize. There are hiring committees, promoting committees, committees where we assign funds for projects. If we see the signs of misbehavior, of misconduct, we should act, and we should be there. We shouldn't avoid being part of committees. We should be there and preserve the good standards of science. And yeah, as a mathematical union, I think you could encourage people who are on committees, especially at the national level, to reinforce this kind of goals, because we are playing with fire here. And with the agents and chatbots of the AI, this is going to be much worse in the future. But to come up with practical recipes for action, that is difficult. I mean, you cannot elaborate a list of actions to do that easily. But we need to discuss that, and we need to act promptly.
Okay, thank you.
Elisa, let me add and say hello to that I completely agree with your question, and what Bill and Domingo and Alessandra said. We have to do something. We have to inform. This afternoon was very important for this. Thank you very much. I have many fears, especially, I mean, I'm looking at political situation, which is on the opposite, right? So I think that we have to act, but we look around and we see that politicians, they like fake news, weak things, and so, I mean, we will be alone, Don Quixote, against all the, but I think we have to, and probably maybe in the future, our effort of mathematician will be taken by someone, okay? Not by the actual politician. Sorry to make such a general. Okay, thank you very much. Elisa, do you want to conclude?
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? I think that on the chat, all is okay. Okay. Just to conclude this interesting meeting, first of all, I would to thank everyone who attended the seminar, as well as the speaker for the availability, and the colleagues from UMI Research Observatory, Valeria Siponcini and Maria Vallarino, who collaborated in organizing the event. And a special thanks to Milena Tandini and Marcello Villani of the UMI for the contribution to the organization. And I would also like to remind you that the seminar slides will be available on a page that the UMI will dedicate to the event. And in my opinion, it's important that we have gathered to clearly recognize that we have a problem, and that this problem already existed before the large language models, and that the situation can only get worse. And I hope that this meeting may serve as a significant moment of reflection for our community, and it will pave the way for a constructive, a coordinated, and informated development of possible actions among the various national and European mathematical associations. And UMI will promote initiatives on this topic, because keeping the system of mathematical publishing healthy is, in my opinion, a collective responsibility. Thank you all again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Grazie Maria, grazie Elisa, grazie Valeria.
Grazie a voi.
Dato tutto bene, mi pare.
Bellissimo, interessantissimo.
Sì, molto, molto davvero. We switch to
Bisogna
Italian.
bisogna agire.
No, veramente, guarda.
Veramente,
Io,
veramente.
Siamo in una situazione che non...